This conference will now be recorded.
We all set, Pat?
Yes.
All right. The time being 6:37 p.m., I will call to order the Monday, September 9th, 2024 meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. Site plan review continuation, Haven Grove LLC, 246 Laconia Road, Planning Board case 24-11, map R20, lot 24. Site plan review to build a 12,000 square foot storage and office building. And on cue, the applicant has arrived.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sorry, I just had to move that chair. It was in my line of sight. Where the meeting's open and you are the agenda.
Thank you. For the record, my name is John Bernard, and I'm the owner of Haven Grove on 246 and 232 Laconia Road. This is a continuation of the last meeting we have here. I also have Steve Nix, my attorney, and Ryan Hodak, the engineer, present to answer any questions. I'd like to start off by going through the list of 8 things that we left off with, if that's all right with the board.
Sorry, what was Ryan's last name?
Hudock.
Thank you.
Well, the last time we were here for well over 2 hours, we discussed 8 changes made on the plan. The first one.
Oh, you need to be microphoned. Sorry.
That happens to me, doesn't it? The first one we'll start with is the handicap spot that we are now showing here on the plan. The second item was to show a 24-inch culvert that we propose, which now it is labeled with a 24-inch culvert. The third thing was the paperwork on the drainage calculations, which I submitted several weeks ago, and I have a hard copy here.
Thank you.
The elevation of storage units was another thing required, which we have a separate plan for that, which is right here, and it shows all the elevations. I can pass those out. Hopefully you guys can share. Small scale.
Oh, it's upside down. That's not gonna help.
The sign and type for the business location, it is been changed. It was on a 90-degree angle, or it was perpendicular to the road. Now we've changed it, and it's stated right over here. And we'll make permits that is necessary for the type. Right now, we're just going to call it a board sign. The snow storage area too, it needed to have any additional snow will be hauled off, and that has been labeled on the plan now. In phase 2, we've asked for the hash marks to be done. I have a little bit of a question to that, because that is part of our drainage calculation and it is part of the plan. So when we develop this piece. We know in the future that we may want to develop over behind the property, or we do want to develop behind the property, and we have hash marks on it. But the drainage calculations that we have submitted and the plan that we submitted, we need that to be approved too, because we don't want to make a plan and then come in and say, well, we didn't approve those existing roads to go off into the future. And that's normal practice. And my engineer and my attorney will speak to that too. So we did put the hash marks on, as you asked, to identify it as the future. And lastly, the plan before said proposed, we removed that word. So now it no longer says proposed. I'm also at this time going to submit 2 new driveway permits that we had talked about and discussed. These are signed ones. These are signed ones. The last ones we had were not signed. Do you have them? You have the new ones? Okay, great. So I won't bring them over.
They
And that-
dated September 6th.
Yeah.
That's why I have permit dates.
Yeah, those are them. Those are
Okay.
brand new.
What's today? Yeah. Oh.
Today's the 9th.
Gotcha. Sorry.
No problem. And so that concludes my presentation. Any further questions, Steve Nix will take them from here. And if we need Ryan to answer any engineering questions, we can go from there. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess it does.
You can if you're going to walk around, you can use
Okay.
the handheld. Otherwise, you can stand there and speak into that one. Whichever is more comfortable for you.
I'm going to open it up for questions at this point. John's gone through the list of items, and I think the most efficient way would be just to do it through questions.
Okay. I guess my first question, do you have the Department of Environmental Services letter dated August 27th, 2024?
That's the request for additional information.
Yes.
Yes, we do have that letter, and I want to point something out. On the plan, it says the wetlands permit is approved, and that was a misunderstanding that the engineer had, and we picked up on that. So that is not correct as of tonight. We just
Is that on? It just doesn't sound like the microphone's on.
Push it up, sir.
Sorry.
Testing.
There you go. Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. So that is an error. I just want to point that out on the plan, so that the permit is still being reviewed at DES. And we would request that the board approve the plan tonight with the condition that the DES permit be granted.
Yes.
I would like to put in the minutes that I did in fact copy that particular letter, the DES letter that Mr. Langione is speaking of, but that did not come via the town hall like the regular avenue that it usually comes in. It was met by a member. It was given to us by a member. It did not come via town hall. So we have not received that letter yet, officially.
When you say it was met by a member.
Until planning board alternate.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, with a request for more information, that letter may not go directly to the town. That's one of those technical things that goes to the applicant, and they essentially just asking for some more information.
Is that this dated
That's-
August 27th?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
We were asked if we had it, and I said no, and um, the person sent it to us, and I felt that it was, you should all have it.
Thank you.
Well, it's addressed to Mr. Bernard, and I went back in other files, and it's something we've never gotten a copy of. It goes directly to them, and I don't know why we got it.
Does the,
Well,
I don't have that.
regardless, it-
Yeah, it's-
they're dealing with it, right?
Yeah. um,
It's the state.
it's the state.
Yes. I guess-
And I don't have a copy of that right with me, but I did read that before, and the engineers, Ryan is dealing with that.
Okay.
I think it's been the 24-inch culvert you put in, that's dealt with on here.
Right, and when the Conservation Commission requested information to stay in front of the adequate, and Ryan did the engineer.
You took-
Information has now been submitted, or will be submitted back to DES, and then they'll make the
That was already complied with.
decision.
Right, correct. Thanks.
Okay, well, I guess I'm not 100% sure if we're supposed to have this and discuss this. Do you have anything you would like to provide informationally as far as demonstrating that the culvert is sufficient and wildlife quarter stuff?
Yeah, that, it was submitted to DES, and that's the culvert that is over-designed by, yeah,
I'm sorry, if you're going to speak, you have to speak into a microphone
Well,
just because it has to be on the
I just
record.
wanted to get the number right, but the way that Ryan designed the culvert, it's only 30% capacity, and the rest of it is open. The years ago when the environmental world was looking at culverts and the ability for animals and et cetera to get through them, they were looking at the box culverts because they could do those without a bottom on them. And then they found out that they're incredibly expensive and very difficult to do. So what's happening now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what's happening now is they're oversizing regular culverts and allowing dirt and rocks to be in the bottom of it, which essentially accomplishes the same thing. And that's why that culvert is so oversized.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else on the board? And just because I just got it handed, so I know personally one of my concerns was the amount of runoff being generated into this wetland area by the amount of impervious surface bits being increased. And I don't know what the gallons to square foot and all that.
I can address.
Yeah, that was just one of my concerns.
Use the overhead.
Tim?
Yes.
Could you help me? Would just like to set this up. Thank you. I'll set that up, please, Steve. Should I asked earlier.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you just have to.
My handwriting. Is that my hand?
We're both gonna adjust at the same time. It's gonna get interesting.
Everyone's standing in your head.
Perfect.
You don't want to look at the whole thing, you just want to look at
So
tables and shit.
I'm going to hold on to the microphone, but if I get something wrong, Ryan, you let me know. That so the two lines of numbers there that we see are the excuse me. It's the existing flows, the peak rate in cubic feet per second. That's a cubic foot of water coming through the design. The top line where it says existing is calculated for a 2, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year storm. And then the proposed down on the bottom is calculated for after construction. And the state, if this were to go to alteration of terrain, which it doesn't need to because it's small enough, the state would require those two numbers to be, the bottom number to be less than or equal to the top number. And if you look at the difference over the 100-year storm, it's actually about 20% less. 20% less. So this design is way over designed for the volumes of water that are coming through there for all of them. You can see how much lower the post design numbers are from the pre-design numbers. Again, very conservative design. They wanted to make sure that there were no problems. The site, excuse me, the site, it actually is a pretty good site for drainage designs. In the area that we're working, it's gently sloping. There's plenty of area out there. There's for them to put the pond in, so there wasn't any issue on the actual size or area of the pond. So they just basically over designed it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank
Yes
you.
or no, but my brain is not calculating how you've increased impervious surface and reduced the cubic feet per second.
So before the construction, it was like this floor. So if a drop of rain landed over here, it would just run, and
Right.
all of it would accumulate and run off. After the construction, more rain's coming in, but you have to figure out how are you going to stop it from coming out the other side over
Yeah.
here. And to do that, they dig the pond,
Right.
and the pond has an outlet. Is that correct? Oh, this one does not have the outlet. So the water will get into the pond and either percolate down into the soil, or in a in a huge storm, which basically won't happen in this particular case, it would simply overtop the edges of the pond, but you're not going to see that. And I'm trying to think. There is a big pond around here, some on the other side of the highway somewhere that
Yeah.
I can't
I
remember.
don't think your
where.
microphone's on again, but that's I know. Ironically, I know a self storage facility that has ponds.
Mhm.
I think 3 before it gets into the main stream. So but I wasn't involved in that. I'm a customer of it,
Yeah.
and so it's in a different town. And but they have it's
They have a sequence of ponds.
yeah,
that they were
yeah.
using.
It's like stepping stones. Each one gets lower, but they hold so much water. Then the last one it holds and off it goes into a wherever.
And did this one need to have multiple ponds to?
No, it's just one.
Yeah. So, and sometimes it can have, the topography would, require that, or, the
Yep.
size of the facility. In this particular case, they were, because of the lay of the land, they were able to get all the water into one pond.
Right.
Without an issue.
And I've driven by there 4 or 5 times since this last meeting. So just for me to get a better.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't sit there and park. I drove by. So thank you. Ms. Dawson has a question.
I have a couple, but we're talking about.
Make sure you turn your microphone on. It's not on. I know. Sorry. I'm going to be the
We're
microphone.
talking about rainfall and drainage, so right now my question is, are these rates based on, I'm gonna say, our normal rainfall events in past years, or what has been occurring recently, which was abnormal rainfall amounts?
I'm going to hand it.
Yeah. It's on. Yeah, so the way we get the rainfall data is very location specific. We basically it's a coordinate system, so we plug in the coordinates of this specific area, and the rainfall data for the 2, 10, 25, 50, 100 is all based on this specific area. So So it varies from town to town or even areas within the town. So it's all comes from, I think this University of New Hampshire maintains all this data. So it's the same system we use for like DES AOT permits. It's kind of the standardized adopted system for figuring out your rainfall data for these various different storm events. So it's kind of interesting because it's not, it changes from site to site. So
So it's
this is
best guess.
yeah, I think my personal opinion, I think it's more on the conservative side, these rainfall datas, but that's kind of that's where we get all the information from. And that's what that's the system that the state adopts as well for DES AOT as well.
Thank you.
And yeah, I've had the experience where early on in my career, when some of these designs were done, um, some of the ponds weren't sized right, and so there is actual, feedback, over the last 30 years of the size, and that's why they went more conservative on the rainfall.
Tilton has experienced a failure of catch these ponds.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally watched the brown water run down to the Winnipesaukee River.
Yeah.
And it went for what, 2-3 days?
Something like that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I mean, I don't know what more we could ask, but it's
Yeah.
best guess.
Yeah, we
That's all
had
you got.
a similar event over in Guilford, Blackbrook. It wasn't pretty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know that one.
I have a question.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
So I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. So UNH maintains rainfall data that the state/DS requires everyone to use when making their calculations for any property on any project in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah, yes, that is correct. Yeah, that's there's an attachment in the drainage report. I can't recall the page, but it's a whole grid table of the rainfall data. But yes, to answer your question, that's kind of the standard that is used for all stormwater permitting in New Hampshire. And it's a page in the stormwater report. I don't have it in front of me. It's like a big table.
And it's the data specific to Tilt, because you said it was like a
Yeah,
grid, so it was
we plug in the coordinates, so it's specific. Yeah, not only to Tilton, but that specific site, because it varies slightly. Just it's a whole grid system. So yeah, you plug in the coordinates, so it's specific to that site only.
Thank you.
So it's as accurate as
It's
the data can be in the state per state guidelines.
Correct. Yeah, it's as accurate as it can be.
Okay,
Exactly.
thank you.
Yeah.
Here's the page. But they get the right page?
That's the coordinates.
I don't know how you focus that.
Is this literally just a computer program that you input information into and it spits?
Yeah, it gives.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If he wants to watch that, that's what this whole report is. Okay, it has all the different.
There you go. Look at that. Huh?
Do you know what page that would be?
There's a preface in the front, right there.
Oh, here we go. 1.3. All right, give me a second. Oh, look at that. Extreme precipitation tables.
It gives you for 50, 100-year,
And there's-
30-year storms.
So it's elevation 160 feet, 43 degrees north, 71 degrees west, approximately. 500 year.
I just wanted to confirm, are your calculations based off of the extreme precipitation estimates or the lower confidence limits? Because they're different rainfall
Oh,
rates.
yeah, they're based on the extreme precipitation estimates. That's like that's standard what we do with DES AOT. I think the lower confidence limits is just kind of an output of the program, but we don't use those for stormwater analysis. So we use the extreme one. So again, it's on the conservative side, and those are the numbers that we input into our stormwater model, which we create with a program called HydroCAD, which is actually very specific program with determining areas, slopes, the type of surfaces it is. So it's you get pretty into the weeds with the numbers there. But yes.
Thank you.
And the natural flow from this is to the back of the property. Not towards, it's not flowing towards Route 3, it's flowing towards the back.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Well,
you,
it's
okay.
sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sideways.
it flows down towards the river, I think.
Well, no, the river's across the street, so that's why I was like, where's the river across the street?
There's a brook.
Oh, the
We're not
brook.
talking about the, yeah,
Yeah,
sorry.
right, sorry.
Yeah,
Not the
no,
one beside
you're right. The river is across the road.
Is it truly a brook? Does it really have a flow like a brook, or is it just a draining wetlands?
It's got both. So it has mostly draining wetlands where my property exists. Along the edge of it, there's a brook, and
Is it?
there is.
Okay.
It's a distance off.
I think he's answered all 8 of the questions that we had.
I
Yeah,
have more questions.
go ahead.
I read in the zoning board minutes of May 21st, 2024, and 2 abutters were there and spoke of the runoff from that property. What are you planning to prevent that, or have you prevented it, or diverted it, or blah, blah, blah?
So how do I explain this? I'll explain to you this.
I can answer the question.
We all can.
Microphone on, please, sorry.
If I could figure that out.
It is on. Can you hear me?
Now I can.
Okay. So here's the long and the short of that. This property, I'm calling it Tilton Ridge. There's a ridge that runs down the middle of it.
Mhm.
All of the abutters that had a complaint are on the other side of the ridge. So whatever we're doing here, whatever's in front of you, would have to climb up a 100-foot ridge and down the other side, which, as we know, is all impossible. So it's gotten convoluted because we came in and we've asked for a variance for housing. That's up on the ridge. That would potentially could affect the other butters, and I see how they could have a concern about that. This is down on the bottom of the bridge. It has no way of getting any water to them. And I will say this, and I have said it, and I can even go this far, that this property was investigated after it was alleged that we had erosion. DES came out there and looked at it and found that there was no erosion. And so when we come back and sometime into the future, we will address that issue, but it's impossible for us to affect those properties with what we're proposing here now, because it's on the other side of a ridge.
So our site plan and subdivision regulations talk about properties changes not allowing those flows of water onto other people's property. And I'm
Agreed.
not saying it correctly, but we're site planning a property.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what might be proposed in the future, but
Right.
we're site planning a property, and it has been pretty well logged. I mean,
I don't believe that. I disagree with what
the
you're
property
saying.
has changed dramatically from what it was. Vegetation's been disturbed and removed. There is I'm going to call it a logging road or whatever,
Mhm.
going up the hill, but
Yes.
nevertheless, you're saying you're not going to do anything to prevent those waters from flowing onto the abutters' properties?
Well, the two abutters properties were the veterinary and the
Well,
and U-Haul. And this plan right here um, shows the ridge. Those two properties are on the other side of the ridge. This proposal does not include any development along the ridge. So nothing will change from the top of that ridge. So when a drop of water hits the ridge, it's it's either on one side or the other. If it's on our side, when I say our side, I mean the development side of the ridge, it's going to come down towards the storage units proposals. If it hits the other side of the ridge, it's going to go the other way. But that's all natural. We're not impacting that at all. And that's what this plan shows, that the other properties are located up in this area here. And you can see these dark lines are the drainage areas that the engineer has taken into consideration. So the drainage areas don't come anywhere near the properties that were at issue at the zoning board.
The other thing I'd like to add is I've met with the abutters out there, U-Haul in particular. I didn't know, but U-Haul is owned by one man. So the number 3 man who works for U-Haul came out and walked the property with me. And he said, hey, we had water when we were developing our property. And he goes, it just happened at the same time that you were doing your timbering. I said, yes, that we had 66% more rain that year. And we also had 16 out of the 21 weekends in the summer that it rained. And he looked at it and he walked it and he goes, I can see that there's no erosion there either. It was just a coincidence that we had super heavy rains and I was logging, but there is no erosion, Catherine. We've walked it with multiple people out there and there isn't. Even though people keep using that term, it's not happening.
so the answer to my question is you have addressed it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. Maybe a statement. So the zoning board decision was for no more than 2 buildings, but your site plan shows 3.
Yes, and we need to go back to the zoning board to amend the existing special exception for the third building. At the time, and we would ask this board to approve a conditional upon that amendment. At the time that we went to for the special exception, John's engineers and they were under the impression that 2 buildings would do it. And once they get into the design work, and I don't have all the details on that, once they get into the design work, it turns out to be better to divide it into 3 buildings. So lower impacts, et cetera. The buildings are smaller, although we have the same square footage at the end. But we do need to go back to the zoning board and amend the special exception for the 3 buildings.
We had this discussion the last time, but I'm just,
Mr. Chair,
so it's the
they are on
same,
the appointment for next week,
it's the
for zoning.
Oh, for zoning. I'm like,
same square
Thank you.
footage,
So
but you're asking to divide it between 3 buildings. Okay.
But we also spoke about it last time, and we were having 600 square feet as our kiosk and maintenance building. So, Catherine, we spoke, you said, well, that's part of it. I said, well, I don't think I need a special exception because I could build that out there at any time. So what I did is I came in and amended my plan one more time to show this additional 600 feet for the kiosk and maintenance building. So it will actually be 12,600 square feet.
It's actually, I'll speak loud, it's actually not a separate building. It's It's this, in the center building here, there's 600 square feet here that will have the electronics for surveillance and this is a card system. So it'll have all of that in that area. It's basically a maintenance area.
Anything else, Catherine?
Yes, I have one other thing. Well, actually, I have a couple other things. On the very west side, your driveway looks like it's what, about 10 feet from the abutter? Is it? So, and that's a dwelling unit, residential dwelling unit.
What?
The abutter. Okay, so that requires, I know, it doesn't look like anything's been removed as far as vegetation, but 10 feet's a very narrow corridor, but our ordinances require landscaping, a landscape buffer between the development and that residential dwelling unit. And I don't see that.
We're going to try to leave all
Microphone. Sorry.
We're going to try to leave it with the natural greenery that's in there right now. So it's pretty thick. It's kind of viney and it makes a really nice buffer between us and them. So hopefully we can leave that and not disturb it. And that would be better than anything if we tore it all out and tried to plant some trees. It is flat. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just going to say that those drive approaches, that one specifically you mentioned, our driveway basically matches existing grade as close as possible. So there's really the limits of disturbance and earthwork are they're very minor because it's not like we need to grade back to existing on either side. It's basically matching it. So it's be like laying down a carpet on top of on top of it. It's there's minimal earthwork going on there. So just wanted to point that out.
And I think it would probably be appropriate to add a note on the plan as a condition of approval that area would remain a green space.
And the other thing that we've been made aware of, reminded, is our Tilton zoning ordinance 10.5.2 requires that all commercial buildings shall be connected to a sewage disposal system.
What page is that? What page?
I can tell you what page if I look it up. It looks like it's 38, maybe 39.
39. So, yeah, in this particular case, John has considering putting a chemical toilet in, which meets the definition of the New Hampshire Water Supply and Pollution Control. It's actually DES now. Under their rules, the definition of a individual sewage disposal system includes dry toilets and incinerator type toilets. So in this particular case, John will put a Nature's Head chemical toilet, which meets the requirements for DES. There is no requirement under that. I'll put this here. You can take a look at it. There is no requirement. Let me reread that real quick. At 10.5.1 requires that residential structures have running water, but it does not state so for commercial structures in 10.5.2.
That's correct.
So there won't be any running water, and this will be a dry chemical toilet, for lack of a better term. which was
Just to make sure that we understand, this is not a portable toilet.
no, it's not a
This will be
portable toilet.
installed within the building
Correct.
itself.
Yep.
Anybody? And then just a technicality, I couldn't find where this was stamped by the wetland person. It says that it was number 8, wetlands shown were delineated by, but it isn't stamped. It doesn't tell us the date.
As previously mentioned, the wetland permit based on that RFMI is still under review at DS, and we provided all the design plans for the road and culvert to the wetland scientist, who's preparing and submitting that application. So we it's an outside stamp, and I believe she or the wetland scientist will
I'll give it back to you.
will stamp the fine. Will provide the stamp for DES review. It was just done by an outside consultant, so her stamp is not on our civil plans, but but it's on the wetland. Okay.
Catherine has the package now, which is a complete package for the DES, and it shows the wetland scientist who created it, has the engineering plans. These,
So are you leaving this with land use?
you have a copy of that? I mean, it's,
Land use has a copy of this?
I believe so, and that still is under review. We'll wait till we get a final one.
Yeah,
So
somewhere there's a copy of that in the town because we're required to supply that.
That's right.
with the application.
the planning board doesn't have it.
We can get you,
We can get it.
we can get you a digital copy or I can print off another.
We can make it a condition.
Yeah, okay.
Do we have,
We can solve that problem.
Pat, do we have a copy of that or?
We wouldn't want it till it got stamped anyway. I think that's
yeah.
what they're saying.
Yeah.
The final copy will be stamped by everybody, so that's
Well,
what we'll be looking for.
so normally that's what we have in front of us because in our ordinance, and you're probably familiar with it, John, a wetland review that's done in the winter isn't valid.
Right,
And if it's so many years old, it isn't valid,
right,
et cetera, et cetera.
right.
So that's why normally,
So if you want to make it a condition of approval that the stamp will be on there and is a standard operating procedure on your standpoint.
anybody keeping track of all these conditions?
I've written down some, not all.
Well, we have the 8 that he had to begin with, and we want the green space in here, the toilet, the chemical toilet, and then the
Yeah.
stamp. So I think those are the 3 extra ones. Didn't you get those 3 extra?
What's it?
Chemical toilet. You get that?
I have a question, something that conservation brought up, but
Green
I don't know
space
if I'm not understanding how it applies to what I have in front of me.
and stamp.
It says,
By the wetland side, the stamp.
the applicant stated that fuel will be brought to the site in trucks. Or-
When the machinery is there, the fuel for the machinery is in the back of the pickup truck in the fuel container.
Oh,
So
you're
the-
talking construction.
Exactly, right. So they wanted a specific area on the site to refuel, and I'm not sure whether that made it on the plans, but
No, they just want me to designate a certain spot
Spot.
that we're going to refuel every time. In case there is an accident, we know where to look. That's all the Conservation Commission said to me, as far as I understand. So
Right.
we'll designate a spot. This is a pretty simple construction. We'll be in and out of there.
You never know it by planning board.
Got to refuel at least once in those 2 months.
Well, sure. Yeah, sure.
Every day.
Yeah.
I was confused. Thank you.
No, no, I see where why you would have been.
Is that a condition?
No, that was something Conservation
Okay.
Commission brought up. She didn't understand what it was. She thought they were refueling something and they're not.
I hope that you can appreciate that we have done a pretty thorough job on this, and we haven't spared any expenses in getting these reports and the drainage calculations, and all of that is in front of you. So hopefully you can make a good decision on this project.
I hope you understand we've done a pretty thorough job of monitoring every move we made too, so.
I think that's your history, John.
Now, you wanna
Do
make
you
one?
have anything
I think
else?
we got all your things.
Well, we've got a whole list of conditions. Have we got them all?
Yeah, I think so.
The
Yeah, I
landscape
mean, you can go.
buffer?
You can go at any time.
I gave him that.
You
I
don't
gave
need my
him the toilet. The chemical toilet. The,
So I have another question. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, I did notice on the print, a lot of things are proposed. Yeah, so we can eliminate propose on a lot of these.
I think that was,
I thought you were going to, you did that. You already did it. You
Yeah.
told us.
Yeah, except this one says proposed. I don't know, it came tonight. It
Yeah,
says
that,
proposed grassline swale, proposed
yeah,
sign, proposed.
I can,
Can we remove that, please?
yes, we can certainly remove it. It's kind of just a semantics thing on civil plans where if it's not existing as of today, almost everything we say is just propose this, like the buildings, for example, we say proposed buildings, because they don't exist today. So we just kind of,
Which makes sense.
we just put that on there to differentiate what's currently on the site versus what is part of the plan. But we can amend the language however you would like us
I
to.
understand, but when you come here and we approve it,
Oh,
that's
just,
it.
okay, got it. Yeah, we'd be happy
You don't
to.
get to change mine.
Sure.
Unless you
That's
come
what
back.
he
Oh,
said
I
that.
see, because proposed leaves room for,
I'm gonna do something
I
different.
see. Gotcha. Yeah, we can totally amend that. Yep.
Thank you.
You okay? Come in. I'll record it, you know.
You get the special exception from the zoning board
They will be back. He must have just taken-
these here?
as a condition? He
Which
has to go
ones?
back to the zoning board to get a special exception on the
Amended.
number of buildings.
Yeah.
Are you changing the square footage? I forgot.
It depends on how we look at it. I did because the last time you and I had that conversation, and I said I have a maintenance room and I could build that without a special exception. You said, well, it's part of the building. So I said, okay. So I just went back and I changed it to add the 600 square feet in it. So we're going for 12,600 square feet. That will include that maintenance shed.
So you're gonna take what you're proposing here to the zoning board?
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay.
He's on the docket, on the agenda for next week, Catherine.
I might attend.
I hope you do.
Yep.
Handicap,
Yeah, he had that.
24-inch.
Yeah, are these all?
Those are ones we had given him.
Right. Do we need to include those?
No, but we
I think
do need
that's
to
all I had
include
for,
this one.
No, they get it
Condition.
though. They're gonna make a.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
We have to open up to the public too. So. What's that one?
Would it be possible to just get a brief rundown of all of the permits you guys have applied for as part of the project?
Sure. New Hampshire Department of Transportation, curb cut. Two. One in, one out. Those are already granted. State of New Hampshire wetlands crossing, which is under review.
Special exception.
The special exception from the zoning board that we need to go back and amend.
And
And
planning
And that's scheduled.
next week.
yeah, for next week. I believe that's it on this one.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the board?
I have one simple question. I forgot to ask it and I apologize. What is the height of these buildings?
I brought that in, it's in
Is
front
it
of you.
9
It's on there.
feet, 4 inches?
That seems awfully
Yeah,
short.
that's it.
That's the height?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was just,
Yeah,
What are they, about 12 feet tall?
I knew they were less than 30 feet, but
yeah, they're like 9 feet.
Well, they slope, right?
They slope. They're like a quarter
Towards
pinch.
the
Like
towards the
the office building out front here, I'd like to, so everybody on the same page and full disclosure. How's that mic work? Good. Thanks. This, oh, wow. This is the office building. It will look a little different. It will be on the end. It actually makes the building a little bit more attractive. It has a kiosk here. So people go up, they can insert their credit card in their driver's license and they can get a code. And that's how these things are run nowadays. It also shows the electrical panel and a door. So this will have a little bit higher size. It's 15 feet tall. I just want to point that out so everybody understands what we're proposing here. Thank you.
Just a reminder, you will need permitting for signage on the face of that building.
Thank you.
If you're putting any or windows or what have you.
Appreciate that.
All right. I'm going to open this up to the public, and it is common practice of this board to allow for public comment for those present or online. So do we have, I can't see if anyone's online. Tim? Sorry.
No.
No, okay. No one online. Anyone from the public? Hearing none, I will close it to the public. Any more discussion from the board?
for everything.
So I just have, just to review the
Conditions.
conditions. They have to receive zoning board approval for the third building and the increase to 12,600 square feet. The area between the western driveway and the property line, I said be a landscape, but was that the correct word? I liked what you said, or someone said,
buffer.
Green,
buffer, landscape buffer. Thank you.
green space button.
Okay.
I thought we discussed that we would be leaving the natural vegetation that's there.
Yeah,
That's
but
much
that-
better than any
Yeah,
buffer
That's
I could
fine.
put in there.
That's
yeah,
still a
that's
buffer.
fine.
No, I'm good with it. I just want to be clear on it so
You want me to put a natural landscape buffer?
It's
be
already
left in
there.
its
As
natural
long as he
state.
has a buffer.
Yeah.
Okay.
If during the excavation, something happens and you got to fill in a little blank, then
Okay.
as long as there's a buffer.
Maybe the whole thing burns down and you need to replant. Yeah, forest fires are not uncommon these
Heaven
days.
forbid.
Hope you don't come back here. to get-
The stamp plans need to be stamped by a environmental engineer or wetland
Well,
scientist.
nobody's
Wetland
really
scientist.
stamped it.
Okay.
So those,
The
there's no
final
engineer,
plans need to
the
be
The final
stamped.
plans need to be
final
stamped,
plans need to have the appropriate
appropriate stamps.
stamps.
Okay.
It's also got to have the lines for signatures.
A chemical toilet. And remove the word proposed in all the plans. Any other?
It pending approval of the wetland permit, correct?
Pending approval of all state permits.
Yeah.
And DES approval.
And DES approval.
The others we have.
The others we have. Compliance with Tilton signage regulations.
We did that last.
Yep. Anything else?
Eric, didn't hear what Catherine had spoke about, something about lines on the permit.
Signature lines, right?
Signature lines, that's in our
Okay.
regulations.
We don't get those, Pat. That comes up on the Mylar.
Yes, I
Yeah.
understand what
Okay.
they are. I just didn't, she just said lines and that's all I
It
heard.
was a reminder when I said that.
Okay.
That doesn't have to be a condition.
No, I didn't think it did, but all right.
There's a lot of things that weren't on it.
So I guess I'll make that as a motion.
I second that.
A motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Would you just mind reading back the list of conditions?
Can you, Pat, can I ask you to, because I have chicken scratch. I can try it and
Oh, is this a test? Zoning board approval to the 12,600
the
square
third
feet
and the third building.
in the third building. The western driveway buffer left to a natural state. Stamps by the wetland scientist in the final plans. Signature lines on the Mylar. Chemical toilet proposed, the word proposed removed. Approval of all state, local, and DES permits. Signature, signage approval. Approved. Signage permits approved.
It should just say buffer. It
Buffer.
doesn't matter if it's natural or not, but if the way it's written, if something happens
That's a
and
west side,
a
Pat.
tree comes down, you're gonna have to plant something in that
I said
space,
west.
which wouldn't be
I got
natural.
West side on the buffer.
Technicality,
Buffer on the
but
west
you don't
side.
want to get hung
got
up
that.
on that. So if we just leave
You have to
a
put a,
Instead of,
just a vegetative buffer,
Oh,
that could be natural or man-made.
otherwise you have to put a fake Christmas tree in there.
No of those.
Should we use the language of a vegetative privacy screen? Is that because I know we don't want to use
No, because it's not a
Nap.
privacy screen.
It's not a privacy
It's
screen.
referred to as a buffer
It's a
in our
buffer.
ordinance.
right. Privacy screen covers everything.
It's referred to as a buffer in our ordinance. I don't know if I'm gonna find it again.
All right.
Be offspring nest.
Any other discussion?
It's been
Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we have an agenda here. All right. Next on our agenda is approval of the minutes of August 13th. Everyone have a chance to review those minutes?
Yep.
I did somewhere. I don't think I printed them, but I looked at
Make a
them.
motion to approve the minutes of August. What, August when?
August 13th.
August 13th.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Any other business to come before this board?
Yes,
Yes.
I have two things. So our design and construction requirements, appropriate buffers are to be maintained or installed to provide privacy and noise reduction to residential areas abating non-residential sites. So it is a buffer. I just wanted you to know that. Quickly. Our time for presenting changes to our zoning ordinance is coming upon us. It's sooner than the warrant because ours is on the ballot. So our expiration time. So I had to come up with 3 things. And it's hand scratched, I'm sorry. I can write it into the computer and send it to you, but just so you knew what I was doing, 10.5.2, water and sewage. Right now, you have to read the whole paragraph and it's kind of understood what it's talking about, but we shouldn't leave it that way. If you look at 10, and you don't have to, I'll read it to you.
What page is it?
It's on page
39.
10.5. It's on page 39. So it talks about dwelling units, the needing, commercial buildings all needing sewage disposal system. Public system is not available. Private sewer is required. Portable toilets, commonly known as porta potties or outhouses, shall not be acceptable. Well, some would translate that to mean that in the town of Tilton, you can't have a porta potty. Now, I can tell you right now, the town of Tilton's got one on the ball field at 132, and we put one at Riverfront Park. So what I'm suggesting is that we amend that to say, are not substitutes for approved sewage disposal systems.
Yeah, that seems like a, because
Yeah.
it's not
Well, I,
it's clear within the context, but outside of the context.
so,
We've
Exactly.
run into some very difficult situations this past summer.
so it's funny that you say that because I see a lot of portable toilets in my journeys. And some places they have one of those in place so they don't allow customers to use their indoor
correct.
facilities.
Correct.
So,
That's
so
not legal.
is that legal or is that not legal in the town of Tilton?
No.
Nope.
Well, like, if you read the paragraph, and I remember when they did this, it was meant to be, it was not an acceptable substitute for a sewage disposal system.
Right.
Not, you can't have a porta potty at the town of Tilton anywhere
Right.
for any reason whatsoever.
Well, every construction site you
That's
go to
not what it
has
was
one.
meant to. That's right,
So-
because a lot of construction sites, depending on the duration, are required to have a portable toilet. So
Right.
you see, it doesn't make any sense. So we have to fix it to make sense.
Yeah.
The other thing was in 10.2, which I think is on the page before, we have building permit renewals. Building permits must be renewed 1 year after issue if the work has not been completed. No additional charge, no variances. Well, what happens is people renew the building permits because for whatever reason, and there's no limit, they can go on and on and on. And in the meantime, if building codes change, they don't have to comply with them. And sometimes that's a safety issue.
Well, we're losing money too.
Well, yeah, some
The
people.
biggest issue is the safety. We have one for 5 years right now, and building codes have changed.
Yeah, because they just updated all this.
That's correct.
So
Yep.
what I'm suggesting is that we just don't have building permits renewable. And I haven't played with the language yet, but they just come in and reapply for a new building permit.
Because don't they, if their building permit was, let's just say, okay, they have a site plan review or approved site plan, and they're going to build something on the land, don't they only have so much time to build that?
It says the building permit says
No, I'm
it
talking about
expires in 1 year.
right 1 year, but does the zoning, does the site plan approval, I'm sorry, yeah, so if we apply, so the case that we just had before, so they have until September 6th, 9th, whatever today is, do they have 2 years to act on that? And if they don't, and if they start building on September 10th, 2026, do they have to come back before the board? And therefore, they would have to get a new building permit anyways.
Or
That's
you have a site like U-Haul that's been under construction for how long? Over a year.
Yeah,
well over a year. But as long as they begin,
right. They begin it.
there's intent in there that as long as they've begun and get an extension on it, there's something in there that says is if they've begun the building permit specifically says
Okay.
on our building permit, it specifically says expires in 1 year. However, the zoning ordinance says it's renewable. It's contradictory. And we have people that go for 5 years and say, well, I want one more year, and it's going to expire in 2 days, and I don't want to have to upgrade to the new codes.
Well,
This is why I'm bringing it up so we can all look at it and change language, because it says here, building permit renewal, building permits must be renewed 1 year after issue if the work has not been completed.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I suggest look at the building permit and this, and then come up with some language.
I feel like we might be able to fix it by just adding permits cannot be extended if work has not begun, because we're saying you have to renew it if it's been a year or more, and then if we only allow renewals of projects that are under construction and have broken ground, that would not allow someone to just keep renewing an unstarted project.
And if they put a railing on a deck,
Well, they dig a hole. They dig a footing a year.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's what I mean. So we
Yeah.
can all be thinking of it.
Well,
I've lived here
ambiguous
for
there.
almost 30 years, and I know of a house that's been under construction for 30 years. It's still not complete.
I think I know the house you're talking
I
about.
can show you where it is.
the third one,
Third one.
Catherine, Airbnb.
Oh, Airbnb, yeah.
Definitely, that was the one I had.
Airbnb is, I can tell you as health officer,
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of problems with it because it's not, it's this big gray area sitting over there.
It's short. I don't even want to use the phrase, but
So,
It
and
is
there's
short-term
nothing in our
rental.
zoning that
short-term rentals. Yeah.
controls it. So you look at our master plan, we have these residential areas. Can people Airbnb their house?
But the last
Turn
time,
it into really a commercial piece of property in the middle of a residential neighborhood?
And they're calling to complain the deplorable conditions that the house is rentable, and then they want us to fix it. Or they're calling to say, I want to buy this house. It's $60,000. It's listed as $60,000 revenue in Airbnb revenue.
Yeah.
And yet, on the other side of that, we have a housing standard for multifamily homes that live in with the ICC codes and IBC codes, and there's standards that they have to live by, but residential Airbnbs, they don't have any standards to live by.
What about if a single family residential property is being used as a rental, would that individual have to fill out the form with the town as far as like, because I know that we have the multi-family property form, but what if someone is renting a single family home?
If
out
it's an
on a month?
Airbnb, yes.
But
Well,
what if
the
it's just a
Airbnb is
monthly?
usually a short-term rental, so
Correct.
less than 30 days.
Right, but
You're saying like if I moved to Arizona for 6 months and rented my house out for 6 months,
yeah.
it's still being used as a single-family residence,
Or if
and it's not short-term.
if you bought another home in Hawaii and you've rented it out your house out 12 months a year, it's still a single family, but it is a rental property. So then I guess like I would think whether it's
Airbnb,
1 unit, 2 units, 3
Well,
units,
that's-
6 units, it should have to register with the town as a rental.
I guess you have to define what a short-term rental is,
Right.
and
And that's the problem. The Airbnbs, the problem is the short-term rental is the activity,
because most Airbnbs are maybe not so much in the summer, but in the winter or other times of the year, it's a weekend here, a weekend. It's
Or a week.
it's
or a
Friday,
week there.
Saturday, maybe a 3-day weekend. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I've been looking at other communities' Airbnbs, and I'll tell you, they're pretty involved.
Yeah, it's very
Well,
controversial.
It took Laconia like 4 or 5 years to come up with it.
And that's one of the ones I've been looking at.
North Conway has.
Should we just
I think
copy
theirs is a
Laconia's? Because
No.
theirs
Well, I'm
is very
suggesting
recent
is,
and legal.
oh,
It's past all the stuff.
yeah,
So
look at them. Look at the other communities, and North Conway's a good one. I looked at
But
Concord.
isn't theirs in court?
Laconia's?
No, North Conway.
No, Conway, yeah.
I think they're in court for theirs.
are.
So
And the other thing is to look at our definitions, because somewhere in here, and I forgot, I've read it a couple times, is um, our definitions and our subdivision and our zoning should match.
what should we do a workshop
I think so.
100%.
at the end of
Well,
the
we
second
could
meeting in October?
Definitely, but in the meantime,
Oh, we've talked about Airbnb, and that's what's happened. We never put it in because it was so complicated. We didn't even know where to start. So I think a workshop would be a good idea.
yeah, but in the meantime, look at others so you have ideas and think about it.
Do we have anything on our either of the October meetings?
We have a potential for one in October because we moved one from the 9/24 in September because you all remember we had a 7-space car sales and a 6-space U-Haul wants to come in and now change the 6-space U-Haul to a 6-space car sales. But however, the law says that you must have a dealer license to sell cars, and that hasn't happened yet. So I took the liberty of moving that to October, if in fact he has a dealer license. So it's
Well, we can just
questionable.
Can we just say that, okay, our second meeting in October, we'll do a workshop?
The second meeting, sure.
I mean, if we're not doing a meeting at the end of September, that could be we could do a workshop. And did I just hear that right? We don't have anything.
Well, we don't have anyone on the agenda right now for the next meeting, right?
Correct.
So why don't we just make that a workshop?
Do that.
Yeah,
too.
at the end of September.
I won't be here, but that's okay. You can run the meeting. You're the vice chair.
So you'd be,
I would
So
be on
do you
hold.
just want to concentrate on getting some info for Airbnbs, or do you want to just concentrate on the other two, which would
Well,
Be-
the other two would
would be
are fairly
language.
easy.
the other two are pretty easy. The definitions is just time. That's
Okay.
pretty easy.
so
Although
look through your books and try to figure out what the definitions are and everything
and we could
figure that out. And not-
definitely read other people's Airbnbs and come back and talk about what we've read and which ones we like the best, and maybe combining a couple or adopting one.
at that time also, can we go over the 2025 schedule and just have you glance at it and make sure that it's okay before we submit it to Amy?
You want to do that now?
Well, it's penciled in. If you want to look at it as penciled in, I can give it to you.
Is it not
I just have one
It's
copy, but we
the
can make
same-
more copies.
schedule we've been doing in the sense of
Isn't it the
Yeah,
second
it-
and fourth
monthly
Tuesday?
meetings
Yeah,
except for
it is.
certain
But there's
Well, the one in March, we only have one because of
you-
elections.
one comes on Veterans Day, so we need to push that out.
We've never looked at that. That's always been up to the land use person to take care of.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think we need to.
Okay,
I think you can do that.
we'll just let us go ahead and post it. Okay.
No meetings on election night,
There are no meetings on
meetings on
election,
holidays.
and we'll just not do 11/11 and just make sure that we just have one that week, one that month, I mean, as long as it's not Thanksgiving.
And what month do we take off? July?
No, we just have one. We had one in July and
one in August,
one in August.
Oh, so it's,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, July and August, you only have one. And then zoning only has one in November and December. And I think that's the way this is working with the calendar, that you'll have one in November and one in December.
Oh,
But you
because of
might,
the holidays.
right, because of the way the holiday works, but you might want to have another week for workshops, that would be up to you.
Okay.
Well, if we get our ordinances done in time, we won't have to worry about that come. That's a
Right.
good thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Airbnb is gonna be easy.
Well, unless we find one we want to adopt.
Didn't Meredith just pass one as well?
Whom?
Meredith.
I think they
Yes, I
did.
looked at Meredith.
I
Laconia is much
think
more.
Meredith has some issues because the folks on Meredith Neck are having issues with it. I think because maybe they allowed it and they're like, well, wait a minute.
Laconia's is much more, I don't know, thorough, I guess. Take a look at them all, you'll see.
No, I'm pretty sure you're not going to find one in Salisbury, but you're going to find one in vacation destinations.
Sunapee probably has
All right.
one.
Any other business to come before the board?
One tangentially related thing. So I was at the Northfield Town Hall the other day, and similar to how we have the tray downstairs with the permits and applications, they have over 30 for many more situations that we don't make
Yeah.
as clear, like they, trenching permits and, porta potty. And so that's something I think we could improve just in terms of the, the number of permits that we have, and then doing a better way of making them, visible and accessible to the public. And that might even be as simple as we go over there and ask them if we can take a copy of each of their permits, and then we can essentially
Yeah.
just make minor tweaks to have it be Tilton instead of Northfield, because they've already done the legwork. But something I thought
You'll
worth
be billed.
mentioning.
All communities share from each other.
Remember, there's only one human resources handbook. Everyone else just makes one little modifications.
Well, I think if you look in the corner over here, we've made great strides in sorting out where we keep our permitting. It's color coded now in zoning, planning. It's also sorted out so that not one container has several in it. It has it's all been relabeled, everything, thanks to Sue and Cindy. So it's very clear when they come up what to pull and how to, where it goes and everything. So it's all been changed. If you want to, on your way out, take a look. They've done a nice job with it.
Are you talking about
The permits.
the little black
Mm-hmm.
holder down by the bottom of the stairs?
Nope, up here, right around the corner.
Oh, I didn't know there was one up here. Okay.
There you go.
I've only ever seen the one right in the
It was
the lobby.
faded labels that you couldn't read sometimes, and you didn't know what was zoning. So if somebody came up for a zoning issue, and you didn't know what if it was planning, what was that, and there's orange for miscellaneous, driveway permit or whatever. So it's kind of a little bit more clearer to the public, so they can just pick it up and just leave, or stay here and fill it out. If they need help, we help them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
Almost.
Motion to adjourn
By Jane Alden.
by Jane Alston. I'll second it.
Okay.
Non-debatable. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Time.
Opposed? Time being 7:56 p.m. We are adjourned. Have a nice night.
So where in that corner over there?
When you come up the stairs, if you looked against that wall.